What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Dwayne, back with you once again. I'm out here, decided to go ahead and take a ride on this beautiful, beautiful Saturday, and I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying myself. So today I wanted to come to you a little bit differently than normal. I've had people ask me a lot about why I do what I do when it comes to motivating others, and why do I produce these type of videos, these motivational videos. And I wanted to talk about that for a little bit. So where my motivational videos come from, it's real simple. It's from my life, from my experience, from a place that is very close to me. I think one of the biggest things for me is I don't always do well with talking about my story, because it is a tough one for me to talk about sometimes. But I think I'll be okay today. You may ask, why is it a tough one? Well, because I remember the battles, I remember the struggles, I remember not knowing what I know today, and feeling like maybe some of you feel maybe right now, or maybe you felt in the past. Feeling like you had no idea how you were going to get through what you were going through. You had no idea how you were going to get to the place where you thought you were meant to be at. Yeah, that was me too, once upon a time. You know, I talked in my very first video about, you know, my job. I am a chaplain in the Air Force, and that's really where my story comes from, trying to become a chaplain in general. And so I just want to talk about that for a little bit and let you enjoy the view. So about 17 years ago, I promise you it won't be that long of a story when I say 17 years ago, but about 17 years ago, I had to make a decision. Well, the wife and I had to make a decision about what we were going to do. So I was working at General Motors. I was able to get into General Motors by my father-in-law, and he got me in right as I was getting married to his daughter. The woman that you know as the wife, also known as Amanda. I don't know if I've ever said her name before, but there it is, it's Amanda. And so he got me into General Motors right around the time me and Amanda got married. And it was great. It was like the perfect scenario, the perfect job. I was making great money. I was getting raises. We had plenty enough money to do anything we wanted to do. And so we started living a very good life. We started building an awesome life. Financially, we just were able to do whatever we wanted. And a few years went by, and if anybody knows anything about General Motors, they know that there was a time when General Motors had a rough patch and pretty much wasn't able to afford to do what they were doing. And so they had to let go of a lot of people on the job. And because I was low on the totem pole, I was one of those people that they laid off. a week before I got laid off, we had our first child, and they said, don't worry, we'll call you back. And so, in hopes for them calling me back, I went looking for something temporary just to get us by. It didn't matter what I tried to go and do as a job. Nobody was hiring. I'm talking about every fast food restaurant, every grocery store, everything I could think of I was applying for, and nobody was hiring. And this was a struggle for me because I didn't know what I was going to do. And the wife came to me one day and she said, I think we need to consider the military. We've seen some of our family members go to the military, and on her side, and it seemed to be a good option. But the reality is I wanted nothing to do with the military. And so I struggled with this thought because I wanted nothing to do with the military secretly because I was afraid that I couldn't handle the military, because I didn't think I was smart enough to be able to do what they would be requiring me to do. And so I was terrified to go, but I didn't tell anybody that for a long time. And so eventually I had to make a hard decision, and I decided, this is what we were going to do. But in saying that, I did a lot of praying about it, and I felt like God was leading me to do this, but He was leading me to do this in a way that was totally different than what I expected. and it was to become a chaplain. I felt it very strongly, and so I went to Amanda and I told her, I said, yeah, let's do this thing, let's go to the military. I said, but if I'm going to do this, I'm going to put everything into becoming a chaplain, because that's what I feel like God has called me to do. And so that's what I did. I went into the military, active duty, and I went in trying to be a job that was going to be close to being connected to a chaplain. But when I got there, I was so broke because I lived off of credit cards for 6 months trying to find a job, and we just got in debt. Remember, I told you we built a very good life, and we had a lot of stuff that we were paying for with the money that we could afford until I lost my job. And so I couldn't pay for 3/4 of the things that I had going on. And so all of these things were piled up, and so the military was my only option. But I was so poor when I went in to apply for a job that I wanted. They told me, they said, your test scores were perfect for submarines. I was like, submarines? That means underwater. I said, I don't know about that. And they was like, well, we'll give you $8,000 to sign up today. Well, I was broke, I was struggling, and I didn't know what else to do. So I signed up and became a submariner that day. And so that day, it made it 10 times harder to be able to pursue my goal to becoming a chaplain, because the kind of work that I would be doing the entire time as a submariner. And that made it really difficult because it was a lot of long hours and a lot of hard work, and it didn't leave a lot of room for me to do anything that I needed to do to be able to become a chaplain. And so I did it anyway, and I found myself having to burn the candles on both ends of the stick. I was working all day long, coming home at about 8 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night some days, and then I would have to do schoolwork, trying to get my degrees, and I would do that until like 11, 12 o'clock at night, and get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and do it all over again. And this was my life for a long time. trying to meet the requirements, and then on top of that, having to get the experience that I needed to meet the requirements as well. So I had to be able to be preaching and teaching at churches and different things. And so my life was crazy. And so I put all this time, long story short, on all this that I'm talking about. I put all this time. I wanted to give you an idea of what it looked like just for me to meet the requirements. I put all this time into meeting those requirements. And it took me 15 years. Well, really, it took me about 13 years to meet what I thought was all the requirements. And then I tried to apply. Meanwhile, as I'm going through all of this, mind you, I'm still keeping up with my normal job as a submariner. I was stuck as an E5. If you know about anything about rank in the Navy, I was stuck as an E5. I couldn't make any rank higher than that. I couldn't pass the test to make rank. I was struggling there because I was putting so much energy into trying to become a chaplain. And so it was getting a little frustrating because, you know, I'm watching all these guys that came in after me making rank past me. And that was difficult. I struggled with that. And maybe one day I'll talk about that struggle. But I applied, and the only reason why I was able to be okay with that struggle, knowing that all these guys were just surpassing me, was because I'm like, all right, I'm applying to become a chaplain. Pretty soon I will be a chaplain and I don't have to worry about this anymore. Well, that was my plan, but that wasn't God's plan, unfortunately. And when I applied, they told me they couldn't even process my application because their requirements changed. And I didn't meet those requirements. After 13 years of busting my butt trying to get everything done, I found out that they changed the requirements, but they didn't change it online. They didn't notify anybody. They didn't do anything. So I didn't know that they changed the requirements until I tried to apply, and they said, nope, I'm sorry, it's not going to work out. At this point, I was devastated because I just put everything I had into trying to make this work. And they told me no. They told me no. The years that I put into this, the work that I put into this, it was so much. And the reality is that I didn't have any help doing this because everybody that I turned to help me, they didn't know what I was supposed to do. They couldn't help me. They kept telling me, I don't know what you need to do next. Maybe you could talk to this person or talk to that person. And every time I try something, they just say, no, this is not going to work. And now I apply, and then they say, no, this is not enough. All of your work that you just put in was not enough. Essentially, that's what they told me. And you can imagine how that felt when I gave it everything I had to do this. And in a matter of a couple of weeks, they tell me it wasn't enough because they changed the rules. I was destroyed from the inside out, folks. Everything that I've been talking to you about on my motivational videos is everything that I struggled with throughout this time, throughout these years. I didn't know what to do at this point. And I'm not gonna lie to you folks, I'm not gonna lie, I gave up. I was ready to quit. I had no desire to try to become a chaplain anymore. After they told me I was not enough, I didn't do enough, I didn't have enough. And And so I quit. And so now, watching all of these other people pass me in my rank, I'm still stuck at E5. I still can't make rank. I'm still struggling because I didn't put the time in to be able to pass this exam, this test, the way that I needed to. And so now I don't have a way to make rank. They told me I don't have enough of the requirements, I should say, to become a chaplain. And so I'm sitting here with nothing. Nothing. And I didn't know what else to do. So I did nothing. I continued on with my job as a submariner, and I was clueless to what I was going to do. And so we're gonna fast forward for 2 years later. 2 years later, I went from sea duty to shore duty. And at this point, I still didn't know what I was gonna do. I had 2 years left before I hit my higher tenure, which basically meant if I didn't make rank, that they would kick me out of the Navy. And so I'm at my shore duty, and one of my chiefs comes to me. He says, some people had told me about you, and they told me that you've been trying to become a chaplain. And I immediately stopped him because I was in a different mindset, and I said, no, I'm no longer trying to become a chaplain. I'm done. I tried. And I gave him a short version of my story, and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do at this point. And he said, well, I'm trying to become a chaplain as well. And he says, but I'm trying to do it for the Air Force. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's great, but I don't want nothing to do with becoming a chaplain anymore. I thought I told you that. And he was like, well, I was just wondering if you would want to try one more time with me, since I am pretty close to where you're at. I'm just a little bit behind you. And I told him no. And this guy was persistent, folks. Every week, he would update me on what he was doing. And every week, he would invite me to try again. And I don't know how many times he asked me, and I don't know how many times I told him no. But at some point, he was so persistent that I went to Amanda, I went to the wife, and I told her what he's been doing. I was like, this guy doesn't want to quit asking me, and I don't know what to do. I feel like this might be God talking to me, and I'm ignoring him every time. I'm like, this might be God telling me it's time for me to do what I've been trying to do for the last 15 years. And I keep telling him no. And I realized, I said, I don't know what to do. And so Amanda had went and told some people at our church at the time. And these people were well connected in the church that we were attending, and they were so surprised that I didn't want to try one more time to become a chaplain. And she just wanted to let them know and see what they thought. And so maybe a week or so went by, and a lady came back to her, and she said, I've been praying about this, and she says, I think your husband needs to try again. I think he really needs to try again. I feel like God has opened the door for him. She said, I want to make sure that he has everything that he needs. And so she got connecting, and she connected with all the other people in the church that had what I needed. And she says she got with them all, and they all have agreed that they were like, we are here to support him 100%. If he's willing to do this one more time, we got him. We will take care of him. We will supply everything he needs for this process. And so she comes back to me so excited, and she tells me all this, and she says, I think you need to try one more time. They're ready to support you however you need supporting. And all you got to do is just try one more time. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I really feel like you need to try one more time. And so, sure enough, folks, I did. I decided I'm going to try it one more time. And would you know, everything that I needed to do, I did, and everything that needed to happen happened without any problems at all. It was so smooth. And so I went through this process of getting everything back together again. All these people at our church, they supported me, they got me everything I needed. And then I'm talking about wrote all these recommendations and all these things I needed. And then I applied for the Air Force because I decided, I said, you know what, I tried the Navy, they didn't take me, and I know that I have the requirements, but I think God was calling me to be in the Air Force as a chaplain. And so I applied. And they, not only did they accept me, but they told me, they were like, we need people like you that are prior service, that has the experience, that knows what it's like to be on the enlisted side and knows how to connect with the airmen. And they were like, when can you start, essentially? They were that ready for me to be a part. And I realized that everything was all in God's timing, not mine. To finish up my story, I am now a chaplain, thriving in the Air Force, doing great things for these airmen, and I cannot be happier. But I realized that all this time I put in all this work, and it was all for a reason, but it was all on God's timing. And so I'm so grateful for unanswered prayers. I'm so grateful that God allowed me to go through what I had to go through, because I've learned so much. Everything that I talk to you about is because of everything that I've gone through in this process, in this 15 years of a process. It all comes from that. And I'm so grateful to have all of this knowledge and all of this experience. I'm so grateful to have gone through so much now, knowing all that I have learned and how it has made me so much stronger, and it has given me the confidence that I need to do so many other things. So the moral of the story is that if you feel like you were meant to do something, you can't quit. You can't give up. Maybe your struggles are for you to learn from, and maybe your struggles are to get you what you need to prepare you for what's to come. But we can't quit. Maybe it just wasn't your time. Maybe your time was coming. Maybe you're in a place right now where you're struggling and you're like, I don't know if I got anything left in me. Well, I'm telling you, you do, because I did. I'm just grateful that when I decided to give up on myself, that God didn't give up on me. And He won't give up on you either. You just have to trust in the process and know there's a reason for it all. There are so many things that if I would have been able to be accepted as a chaplain when I first applied, there are so many things that would have been bad. There are so many things that wouldn't have been what they are today. If I would have got accepted as a chaplain in the Navy, I would have been out to sea twice as much as I was as a submariner, which means I would have been away from my family twice as much time. And I don't even know if that's possible because I was gone a lot as a submariner. And so, again, I'm so grateful for unanswered prayers, because the Lord knew that that wasn't what I needed. This is what I needed. This is what He was calling me to do. I just needed to trust Him in the process. Well, folks, that's pretty much all I got for now. As always, ride in peace and live on purpose. You know how that goes. And I'll talk to you later. Peace.
Resurrected from the grave, I was asleep in Him. Devil thought he won through Christ, I had defeated him. Until we meet again, I'm doing things differently. Created in His image, trying to make His image visibly. My life is purpose, what I do deliberately. See, I'm alive in Christ and every day I live is killing me.